So I have some extra random pieces of styrofoam and insulation that I'm going to use to insulate these lids that go on top of irrigation valves, just to help so the sprinkler pipes are less likely to freeze. I do winterize my sprinklers and blow out the water with an air compressor, but if you have excess pieces of styrofoam that are just sitting in your garage or things that you don't have to spend money on, then this is something that you can use excess insulation with, is to fill in these lids. And my father-in-law gave me this idea. He got one of those cans of spray foam insulation, and he used it to spray the inside of it, and I might do that as well when I have excess spray foam. So I'm just going to insulate these up and show you how it looks. So for this thicker packaging styrofoam that I just found in a box of stuff that I got shipped to, I found that this sheetrock saw works a lot better to cut it. It's just a lot faster than using the razor knife. You just saw through it. It leaves a little bit of debris, but it cuts through it much easier and quicker than the razor knives do. But maybe a sharp razor knife would be a better comparison, because my razor blades I've got are kind of getting dull, so that could be the problem too. But it's working good. We're getting a nice fit piece there. You won't even have to use any spray foam on that one because it fits in there so securely. But these ones where there's little gaps, I'll go back with spray foam and fill them in. We've got random pieces of foam packaging that the R value might not be as good as actual legitimate foam that's used for insulation, but it's going to be good enough. I'm not really just trying to help it insulate a little bit better. It doesn't have to be a huge difference. I just want it to be free. Basically, I don't want to pay any money for insulation that I'm just using to insulate my sprinkler valve boxes, because I turn off the water and winterize it anyway. But I thought I had this can of spray foam to use up, and you can see here you don't need to put very much in, and a little tiny bit goes a long way, because it expands a lot and comes into the area where it doesn't need to be. So just keep that in mind when you're spraying to fill in the gaps. See, I'm getting styrofoam pieces and then I spray a little bit to fill in the gaps there, but you really don't need to spray much at all. So this one can should work for all 4 of these valve boxes that I have. So I'll get these all insulated with 1 can of spray foam and a bunch of free styrofoam I have from various packaging materials from things I bought over the years that were just sitting in boxes up on my shelves. So I might as well use this foam up for something other than throwing it away. It's a good way to recycle styrofoam packaging for a little bit of insulation for these sprinkler valve boxes. I got these foam pieces all cut into place, and the type of styrofoam I'm using is kind of the more flexible, plasticky kind of styrofoam. It's got a little more of a shine to it. You kind of see that. It's the kind that it's more bendable, so it's a little easier to work with because it can press into position. It's rigid, but not as rigid as most styrofoams, and it might not insulate quite as well. They might not do as much for insulation, but I think it will still help when it's free. So it's easy to work with. A couple of tips on putting styrofoam insulation in these irrigation control valve box covers is that it's nice that there's a grid. See that grid pattern there? You can just use that grid pattern and hold it right there as you're laying things out. You can kind of line things up and then kind of line it up to wherever it's easier for you to work with. And then I really liked using this sheetrock saw, just a basic saw that I use to cut holes in sheetrock to add electrical outlets. So a sheetrock saw worked really well for cutting the styrofoam, and then just use the grid pattern so you can cut along the grid, making it easy to get pretty accurate cuts. Another thought is it's a little bit more messy to use the spray foam. You could totally do this project without buying any spray foam whatsoever, and it would essentially be free, because you can just, when you get something shipped in styrofoam that you're just going to throw away anyway, use some of the styrofoam to insulate, and if you cut it well enough, you get a nice firm press fit in there that's not going to come out. Like I can tip these upside down and the styrofoam stays in place. So if you get a good press fit there, you probably don't even have to use a can of spray foam if you don't want to. That can actually save you some money, because that can of spray foam is about $3 or $4 at Home Depot. So if you have little gaps like I still have here, I could cut just extra styrofoam, probably have a more clean look that way, because if you notice when you spray the spray foam there, a lot of it's going to come out, and when it dries I can cut off the excess. I can take my sheetrock saw and cut this off, which I'll probably cut some of this off just so it's not sticking out so far. But you could leave it sticking out, it doesn't really matter. It's not in a place where it's visible. The spray foam might seal and insulate a little bit better around the cracks, but if you get a nice press fit, it will look nice and clean, and you can save yourself the money of not having to buy the can of spray foam. So if I were to do this project over again, I probably wouldn't even bother using the can of spray foam. The only reason I'm using it here is because I needed the can of spray foam for another project anyway. So if you don't have a can of spray foam, just do this project with just some free styrofoam that you get stuff shipped in. The R value probably isn't going to be as good as official styrofoam that's used for insulation. You can look, this is more of a styrofoam that's used for insulation. It probably has a better R value, but you have to pay for it. So if you're really concerned about the best R value possible, then sure, buy some of this foam insulation and cut it to size there. But if you want a free project just to insulate a little bit, you can just get some free foam packaging that you've received from a shipment of something you bought. So hope that helps, and it might help so that early in the spring or late in the fall, if you still have your irrigation pipes full of water and you haven't had a chance to winterize them yet, let's say you're out of town or you have a rental house or something where you're not there all the time, it's a good idea to have some insulation on these irrigation control valve covers, because it will just help them less likely to freeze and break pipes. That's the whole idea. Is irrigation valves tend to not like freezing temperatures, and if you leave water in the pipes when it's freezing cold outside, you'll end up breaking pipes, and it's a really costly and labor-intensive project to have to replace broken sprinkler valve pipes. So I think this is a good idea. I got this idea from my father-in-law. Thanks, Rob, and I think this is a good idea. All right, so I got these box covers all insulated with pieces of random foam that came in shipping, and I think it will help insulate a little bit, just help less likely to make those pipes freeze. I still do winterize the pipes with an air compressor and turn off the water, of course, in winter, but this just kind of helps extend the season, or if you accidentally forget to turn the water off like one or 2 days too late. So a good idea to insulate these valve boxes just to help protect your sprinkler valves so they don't freeze.